You are here now, and that is enough. There is nothing you need to fix, nothing you need to understand, nothing you need to become. Just allow yourself to rest. Fear often arrives quietly, not with loud footsteps, but like an uninvited guest appearing without asking permission. It comes as a thought, an image, a feeling in the background. And before you know it, the body tightens. The breath becomes shallow. The mind starts to prepare. But fear is rarely about what is happening now. Most fear lives in the future. In stories the mind tells itself. Stories of what might go wrong, stories of loss, stories of failure. The mind imagines a catastrophe, and the body reacts as if it is already real. Yet, in this moment, as you lie here listening, nothing is actually happening. You are safe enough to rest. Fear is not an enemy. It is not something to fight. In Buddhist teachings, fear is simply a mental formation, a habit of the mind. It arises, and if fed, it grows. If believed, it strengthens. If resisted, it hardens. Fear often becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When the mind expects danger, the body prepares for it, and in that tension, peace becomes impossible. But the danger was never here, only the expectation of it. Imagine fear as a cloud, passing through the sky of awareness. The sky does not panic because of the cloud. It does not try to push it away. It simply allows it to pass. In the same way, you do not need to push fear out. You only need to stop inviting it to stay. Fear is an obstacle to peace, not because it exists, but because we try to control it. Tonight, there is nothing to control. You can let fear sit quietly at the edge of awareness without engaging, without believing, without following its stories. Notice how fear softens when it is not resisted. The mind may still produce thoughts. That is natural. But thoughts do not require action. They do not require answers. They can drift by like leaves on a slow-moving river. You do not need to jump into the river. You can stay on the bank, watching. Fear loses its power when it is seen clearly, seen as a visitor, seen as a habit, seen as something temporary. Nothing permanent lives in the mind. Everything that arises will also fade, even fear. As you rest here, allow the breath to come and go naturally. There is no need to breathe deeply, no need to regulate. Just notice the gentle movement, the subtle rhythm. Each exhale is a small letting go. Each pause is a reminder that nothing needs to happen next. Peace is not something you create. It is something that remains when you stop interfering. And right now, you are allowed to stop. The mind may try to plan, to prepare, to solve. You can thank it and let it rest. Fear cannot survive in the present moment without your participation. So tonight, you choose not to participate. You choose to rest. And as you do, fear begins to loosen its grip. Not because you forced it to leave, but because you no longer hold on to it. And in that space, something gentle appears, a quiet openness, a sense of ease. You don't need to name it, just let it be. As you continue to rest here, there's no need to listen closely. The words can drift. They can fade in and out. Your body already knows how to rest. Fear does not only live in the mind, it lives in the body, often quietly, often unnoticed. It settles into the shoulders, the jaw, the belly, the hands. The body learns fear through repetition. Each time the mind anticipates danger, the body prepares. Muscles tighten, breath shortens, energy pulls inward. Over time, this becomes a habit, a chronic tension, a background effort, even when nothing is wrong. You may notice that your body has been holding on longer than necessary, and that is not a mistake. The body was trying to protect you. You don't need to correct it. You don't need to fix it. You can simply allow it to soften. Fear creates rigidity, like gripping too tightly while trying to stay balanced. Imagine learning to ride a bicycle. The more you stiffen, the easier it is to fall. Balance comes from softness, from movement, from trust. The same is true here. As you lie listening, there's nowhere to fall. The ground is already supporting you. You can let the body know that, not with words, but with permission. Permission to release effort. Notice the weight of your body being held. The surface beneath you does the work. Your muscles do not need to stay alert. You are not required to stay ready. Fear often keeps the body in a state of readiness, as if something might happen. But tonight, nothing is expected of you. Nothing is required. You can let the shoulders drop just a little, the jaw loosen, the tongue rest naturally. You do not need to breathe deeply. Simply notice the breath as it is. When the body feels safe enough, the breath becomes slower on its own. Fear speeds the breath. Safety slows it. There is no rush. Chronic stress comes from holding tension without release, from never fully letting go. But letting go does not require effort. It is more like stopping what you were doing, like unclenching a fist that forgot it was tight. You may notice small sensations, warmth, heaviness, a gentle sinking. These are signs that the body is remembering how to rest. Fear often convinces the body to stay rigid, but rigidity is exhausting. Softness is not weakness. Softness is intelligence. Water flows around obstacles. Rigid objects break. Your body understands this. As fear softens, energy begins to move again, not dramatically, not suddenly, quietly, a subtle sense of flow. You may feel as if you are melting into the space around you. That is okay. You do not need to stay upright. You do not need to hold yourself together. Sleep is not something you do. It is something that happens when effort ends. Fear interrupts sleep by keeping the body alert. But alertness is no longer necessary. You can allow the nervous system to downshift from readiness to rest, from guarding to openness. If fear appears as a sensation, you do not need to name it. You do not need to analyze it. Simply notice where it lives in the body and allow that place to soften. You are not pushing fear away. You are letting the body know it no longer needs to hold it. The body responds to kindness more than control. Gentle attention is enough. As the body softens, the mind naturally follows. Thoughts slow down when the body feels safe. There's less need to prepare, less need to plan. The edges of awareness become blurry. You may begin to drift. That is natural. You do not need to stay with the words. You can let them pass through without effort. Fear dissolves when it is no longer reinforced by tension, and tension dissolves when it is no longer required. You are allowed to rest deeply. Nothing will be missed. Nothing will go wrong if you let go now. The body knows how to sleep. It has done this many times before. You can trust it. Just as water finds its way downhill, rest finds its way when the path is clear. And right now, the path is clearing, muscles releasing, breath slowing, awareness softening. You may not notice the moment you fall asleep. That is fine. There is nowhere you need to arrive. Just allow yourself to drift. You do not need to think about anyone in particular. You do not need to remember conversations or faces or moments from the past. This is not a time for reflection. It is a time for rest. Still, the body carries memories, not as stories, but as sensations. Fear in relationships often lives quietly inside. It shows up as holding, as guarding, as staying alert. Not because something is wrong, but because the body learned to protect the heart. At some point, it learned that connection can include loss, and so it learned to tighten, to hold on, or to pull away, to control what can't be controlled. This happens without thought. It is not a flaw. It is a response. The body remembers before the mind does. Fear in relationships often feels like effort. An effort to be enough, to not make mistakes, to not be seen too clearly, the effort to manage how one appears. Perfectionism grows from fear, not from love. Trying to be perfect is another way of holding the breath, but love does not need perfection. Love needs space. Tonight, there is no one watching you, no one evaluating, no one expecting anything. You are not being measured. You can let the effort drop. Notice how the body responds when it does not need to perform. The chest softens. The belly releases. The breath becomes quieter. Fear tells us that we must control relationships to stay safe, but control tightens the very thing we wish to protect. Like holding sand too tightly, it slips away. Kindness does not grip. It opens. In Buddhist teachings, there is a word for this kind of openness: metta, loving kindness without conditions. Not something you force, not something you give, but something that appears when fear relaxes. You do not need to generate kindness. You only need to stop resisting. When the body feels safe enough, the heart naturally softens. There is no need to revisit old connections, no need to imagine future ones. That would wake the mind. Instead, let relationships become abstract, like shapes, like impressions, and then let those impressions fade. You are allowed to rest without relating. You do not need to be someone for anyone right now. Vulnerability is not exposure, it is the absence of armor. And armor is heavy. You do not need it here. You are already protected by stillness. As the need to control dissolves, there is a sense of space, more room inside the chest, more room in the breath. This space is not loneliness, it is relief. Fear often confuses openness with danger, but openness is simply a lack of resistance, and resistance is tiring. Tonight, you can rest from resistance. If images of others appear, you do not need to engage. They can pass like reflections on water. No interaction required, just noticing. The body does not need to rehearse social moments. It does not need to prepare. It does not need to protect. The heart can rest without closing, without opening, just resting. Fear in relationships loses its strength when it is not fed by memory or imagination. So you let memory soften, let imagination slow, let the edges blur. You may feel a gentle warmth in the chest, or a sense of quiet expansion. These are signs that the nervous system is letting go. There's no need to hold yourself together, no need to be understandable, no need to be liked. In sleep, there are no roles, no expectations, only rest. Allow the breath to move freely. Allow the body to be as it is. You do not need to fix relationships to be at peace tonight. Peace does not depend on anyone else. It is already here when effort ends. As the body sinks deeper, social awareness fades. Like turning down a dimmer switch, the mind becomes less interested in others, more interested in rest. That is natural. You may notice a drifting sensation, a gentle floating. That is okay. You are not losing anything. You are releasing weight. Fear dissolves when it is no longer needed to protect, and right now, there is nothing to protect. Just rest. Let the words soften. Let the meaning blur. You do not need to stay awake to listen. Sleep is welcome here, and it can come whenever it wants. You do not need to know who you are right now. You do not need a story. You do not need an identity. For this moment, you can rest without a name. The self you usually carry is not something solid. It is a construction, built from memories, from roles, from habits of thought. It forms slowly, over years, and most of the time, it feels real. But tonight, there is no need to hold it together. Fear often clings to the self. Fear of embarrassment, fear of making mistakes, fear of not being enough. These fears depend on an image, an idea of how you should appear. But when the image softens, fear loses its anchor. Notice how much effort goes into maintaining a sense of self. Small adjustments, constant monitoring, trying to be correct, trying to be consistent. This effort continues even when you are alone. But you do not need to be consistent while resting. Sleep does not require a personality. The self relaxes when it is no longer needed. In Zen teachings, there is something called beginner's mind, a state without knowing, without expectations, like seeing the world for the first time. There is no need to be right. No need to be experienced. Mistakes lose their meaning when there is no image to protect. You may even sense a lightness when self-judgment fades, a quiet humor, the ability to smile at small imperfections, not as an action, but as a release. Fear tightens around seriousness. When seriousness softens, the grip loosens. You do not need to analyze this. Understanding is not required. Just notice how it feels when you stop defining yourself, when you stop narrating experience. Experience continues without commentary. The body still breathes. The heart still beats. Life does not need a label to function. The mind may attempt to reassert identity. That is okay. You do not need to follow. Thoughts can appear without becoming stories. They can dissolve before finishing. You are allowed to be unfinished. You are allowed to not make sense. Fear relies on continuity. It needs a me that persists. But in rest, there is no need to persist. awareness remains even when the self fades. A simple noticing, without center, without edges. You may begin to feel as if you are becoming less defined, more spacious. This is not disappearing, it is resting, like mist settling into the air. The fear of embarrassment loses meaning when there is no audience, and right now, there is no audience, only stillness. You do not need to perform for yourself. You do not need to be observed. You can let go of self-monitoring. Let the sense of I become softer, thinner, almost transparent. Sleep welcomes this state because sleep has no identity. It is simply rest. As identity dissolves, time becomes less important. You do not need to know how long you have been here. There is no schedule. The future does not require attention. The past does not ask to be revisited. Everything narrows to sensation, weight, warmth, breath, without interpretation. Fear cannot survive without a reference point, without a self to protect. So it fades naturally, not because you forced it to leave, but because it no longer has a place to stay. The mind grows quieter as the self thins. The edges of awareness soften further. Words begin to lose their structure. Meaning blurs. This is a doorway into deep rest. You do not need to step through consciously. Sleep will carry you. Just allow the body to sink. Allow the sense of self to rest. Nothing is lost. Nothing is required. You can let go now. There's nothing you need to face directly tonight, nothing you need to confront. The words are only here as a gentle presence, like warmth near a fire, without getting too close. Fear does not disappear by running from it, but it also does not require effort to dissolve. It responds to gentleness, to allowing. When fear is not resisted, it changes, not dramatically, quietly, like ice softening in warm air. In many teachings, fear is described as something to be met, not challenged, not fought, simply met. But meeting does not mean approaching with intensity. It can be as simple as not turning away. You are not being asked to relive anything. You are not being asked to remember. This is not that kind of meeting. It is a resting awareness. If fear is present, it can stay. If it is not, that is fine too. Nothing is missing. Facing the fire does not mean stepping into flames. It means noticing there is warmth without danger. Fear often imagines that allowing it will make it stronger, but suppression is what feeds it. Allowance starves it of struggle. And without struggle, fear grows tired. You do not need courage to rest. Rest itself is the courage. When there is no resistance, there is no battle. And when there is no battle, nothing needs to be won. Fear dissolves when there is nothing left to protect. And earlier, you allowed the self to soften. Without a self to defend, fear loses its job. It has nothing to do. You may notice a sense of neutrality. Not pleasant, not unpleasant, just calm. This neutrality is very close to peace. It does not excite the mind. It allows sleep to deepen. Fear often demands attention, but when you do not engage, it fades into the background, like a sound you stop listening to. It was never gone. It simply stopped being important. If there is any remaining tension, you do not need to locate it. The body will release what it is ready to release in its own time. There is no deadline. Facing fear gently reveals something simple. There was never anything to overcome, only something to stop holding. The fire was never burning, it was only warmth, and warmth is safe. You do not need to stay awake for this understanding. Understanding is optional. The body understands without words. As resistance fades, sleep deepens, breath becomes softer, pauses grow longer. The boundary between listening and dreaming begins to blur. This is where effort ends, and rest takes over. You may not remember these words later. That is expected. They are not meant to be held. They are meant to dissolve. Fear dissolves the same way, without force, without drama, just by being allowed to rest. There's a quiet confidence in not needing to fix anything, a deep trust in what is already happening. And right now, what is happening is rest. You are doing nothing wrong by falling asleep. You are doing exactly what is needed. Nothing more, nothing less. Let the fire fade into warmth. Let warmth fade into stillness, and let stillness carry you. There's nothing you need to manage right now, nothing to organize, nothing to keep track of. Control is no longer required. Most effort in life comes from trying to control what cannot be controlled. Planning, predicting, preventing. The mind believes that control brings safety, but the body knows that control is tiring. Control tightens the breath, tightens the muscles, tightens awareness. And when awareness tightens, rest becomes difficult. But tonight, you are allowed to release control. You do not need to monitor your state. You do not need to check whether you are relaxed enough. Relaxation cannot be forced. It arrives when control leaves. The idea of control is mostly imagined, a habit of thought. Life moves with or without permission, like a river. The river does not ask where it should flow. It moves naturally. When we try to control the river, we exhaust ourselves. When we float, we are carried. You do not need to swim. You do not need to steer. Just allow yourself to be supported. Control often comes from pain, from past moments when something went wrong. The mind learned to prevent repetition, but prevention does not create peace. It creates vigilance. Vigilance keeps the nervous system awake. But there is no need to stay vigilant now. Nothing is approaching. Nothing is required. You can let the mind drop its guard. Like setting down a heavy bag you forgot you were carrying. Notice the relief when effort ends. You may feel as if something is missing. That is okay. That feeling is simply the absence of control, and absence feels unfamiliar at first. But unfamiliar does not mean unsafe. It means new, or rather, remembered. Because before learning control, you already knew how to rest. The body remembers. You do not need to trust the future. You only need to stop resisting the present. The present is already here. It does not need management. It does not need correction. Fear often hides inside control. When control relaxes, fear loses its structure. It cannot stand without something to grip, so it falls away, not all at once, gently. You may notice your thoughts becoming simpler, less connected, more like fragments. That is a sign the mind is loosening. Let it loosen. You do not need coherence. You do not need clarity. Sleep does not require logic. As control fades, time loses meaning. Minutes stretch or disappear. You do not need to know where you are in the process. processes are for waking life. This is rest. The breath moves itself. The heart beats itself. Awareness does not need to supervise. You may begin to feel as if you are being carried. That is because you are, by gravity, by stillness, by the surface beneath you. Nothing is going to drop you. Nothing is going to demand your attention. You are safe to let go completely. Control dissolves when it is no longer fed, and it is no longer fed by your attention. Attention is resting now. The edges of experience blur further. The sense of direction fades. There is no forward, no backward, only a gentle drifting. This drifting is not losing control. It is discovering you never needed it. The river knows the way. You do not need to ask it. You can float. And floating requires no effort, no decision, just allowing. If sleep has not yet arrived, it will soon. And if it already has, there is nothing to miss. The words can fade. The mind can fade. Control can fade. Everything unnecessary is leaving now, leaving behind only rest. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to release. Letting go is already happening. You do not need to understand what is being let go of. The mind does not need details. The body understands without explanation. Letting go is not an action. It is the absence of holding, like opening a hand that forgot it was closed. You are not asked to drop anything specific. Just allow whatever is still holding to loosen, naturally, gently, without effort. The mind may try to grasp this idea, to figure out how to let go. But letting go does not happen through thinking. It happens when thinking quiets, and thinking is quieting now. You may notice longer pauses between thoughts, or thoughts that trail off before finishing. That is fine. You do not need completion. In Buddhist teachings, equanimity means resting in balance, not pushing away, not pulling toward, just allowing things to be as they are. This balance is deeply restful. There is no preference, no urgency, no resistance. Letting go feels like nothing happening, and that is why it is so effective. The nervous system does not need stimulation. It needs permission to settle, and permission has already been given. The breath is slow now, not because you made it slow, but because nothing is interfering. The body feels heavier, or perhaps lighter. Both are signs of release. You do not need to check. Checking would be effort. Effort is no longer needed. You may feel as if you are sinking or floating, or simply not noticing the body as much. All of this is part of letting go. There is no wrong direction, no wrong sensation, no wrong pace. Letting go does not aim at a result. It allows results to come on their own. Sleep is one of those results, and sleep is very close now. The words are becoming less important. They are not instructions. They are a background rhythm, like rain. You do not need to follow each drop. Just let the sound be there. Fear has nothing left to attach to. No control, no identity, no resistance. So it fades without announcement, without struggle, without memory. You do not need to remember letting go. You only need to experience rest. And rest is happening. Awareness is soft. Edges dissolve. The sense of here and there loses meaning. Time stretches or disappears. This is not something to observe. Observation is no longer needed. You can drift freely. Letting go is not losing anything. Nothing valuable is leaving. only effort, only tension, only unnecessary holding. What remains is enough, more than enough. If sleep has already taken you, that is perfect. If it is still approaching, that is fine too. There is no rush, no schedule, no expectation, just a deep permission to stop, to rest, to let go. The body knows how to continue without you. The mind knows how to quiet without direction. You can trust that. You do not need to stay awake for what comes next. There is nothing you need to witness. Just let the process complete itself, gently, naturally, without you. There is nothing to focus on now, nothing to follow, nothing to listen for. The words are only a soft presence, like distant wind. You do not need to hold attention. Attention can rest. In deep meditation, there is no object, no goal, no direction. Awareness rests in itself, without effort, without center. Fear cannot exist here, not because it was removed, but because there is nothing for it to attach to. No story, no image, no self, only a gentle knowing without content. You do not need to understand this. Understanding belongs to the mind, and the mind is resting. Thoughts may still appear, but they are faint, like echoes without a source. They do not ask for response. They fade on their own. Breath is subtle now, sometimes noticed, sometimes not. Both are fine. There is no need to check the body. The body knows how to continue without supervision. Awareness becomes wide, then soft, then almost absent, not gone, just unoccupied. This is not emptiness. It is fullness without form. Fear dissolves when there is no boundary, no inside, no outside, no one to protect, no future to prepare for, no past to revisit, only stillness. Stillness does not need to be maintained. It maintains itself. If sensations appear, they are distant. If they disappear, nothing is lost. You are not entering anything. You are not leaving anything. You are resting in what has always been here. The idea of you is no longer necessary. The sense of here is fading. The sense of now is enough. And even that is becoming quiet. This is where language loses its usefulness. Words are thinning. Meaning dissolves. You do not need the next sentence or the one after that. You can drift without guidance. Deep sleep and deep meditation touch the same place. A place without effort, without intention, without fear. Nothing happens here, and that is why it is so restful. If sleep deepens, let it. If awareness remains faintly present, let that be too. There is no preference, no better state, no achievement, just being, without needing to be. Fear cannot follow you here. It does not know this place. There's nothing for it to recognize. No form, no name, just quiet. Long pauses, soft darkness, stillness inside stillness. You do not need to come back. You do not need to remember. You do not need to wake. The body will wake when it needs to. Until then, rest continues. Without instruction, without sound, without effort. You are free to sleep deeply now. is nothing to focus on now, nothing to follow, nothing to listen for. The words are only a soft presence, like distant wind. You do not need to hold attention. Attention can rest. In deep meditation, there is no object, no goal, no direction. Awareness rests in itself, without effort, without center. Fear cannot exist here, not because it was removed, but because there is nothing for it to attach to. No story, no image, no self, only a gentle knowing without content. You do not need to understand this. Understanding belongs to the mind, and the mind is resting. Thoughts may still appear, but they are faint, like echoes without a source. They do not ask for response. They fade on their own. Breath is subtle now, sometimes noticed, sometimes not. Both are fine. There is no need to check the body. The body knows how to continue without supervision. Awareness becomes wide, then soft, then almost absent. Not gone, just unoccupied. This is not emptiness. It is fullness without form. Fear dissolves when there is no boundary, no inside, no outside, no one to protect, no future to prepare for, no past to revisit, only stillness. Stillness does not need to be maintained. It maintains itself. If sensations appear, they are distant. If they disappear, nothing is lost. You are not entering anything. You are not leaving anything. You are resting in what has always been here. The idea of you is no longer necessary. The sense of here is fading. The sense of now is enough. And even that is becoming quiet. This is where language loses its usefulness. Words are thinning. Meaning dissolves. You do not need the next sentence or the one after that. You can drift without guidance. Deep sleep and deep meditation touch the same place. A place without effort, without intention, without fear. Nothing happens here. And that is why it is so restful. If sleep deepens, let it. If awareness remains faintly present, let that be too. There is no preference, no better state, no achievement, just being, without needing to be. Fear cannot follow you here. It does not know this place. There's nothing for it to recognize. No form, no name, just quiet. Long pauses, soft darkness, stillness inside stillness. You do not need to come back. You do not need to remember. You do not need to wake. The body will wake when it needs to. Until then, rest continues. Without instruction, without sound, without effort. You are free to sleep deeply now. focus on now, nothing to follow, nothing to listen for. The words are only a soft presence, like distant wind. You do not need to hold attention. Attention can rest. In deep meditation, there is no object, no goal, no direction. Awareness rests in itself, without effort, without center. Fear cannot exist here, not because it was removed, but because there is nothing for it to attach to. No story, no image, no self, only a gentle knowing without content. You do not need to understand this. Understanding belongs to the mind, and the mind is resting. Thoughts may still appear, but they are faint, like echoes without a source. They do not ask for response. They fade on their own. Breath is subtle now, sometimes noticed, sometimes not. Both are fine. There is no need to check the body. The body knows how to continue without supervision. Awareness becomes wide, then soft, then almost absent, not gone, just unoccupied. This is not emptiness. It is fullness without form. Fear dissolves when there is no boundary, no inside, no outside, no one to protect, no future to prepare for, no past to revisit, only stillness. Stillness does not need to be maintained. It maintains itself. If sensations appear, they are distant. If they disappear, nothing is lost. You are not entering anything. You are not leaving anything. You are resting in what has always been here. The idea of you is no longer necessary. The sense of here is fading. The sense of now is enough. And even that is becoming quiet. This is where language loses its usefulness. Words are thinning. Meaning dissolves. You do not need the next sentence or the one after that. You can drift without guidance. Deep sleep and deep meditation touch the same place. A place without effort, without intention, without fear. Nothing happens here, and that is why it is so restful. If sleep deepens, let it. If awareness remains faintly present, let that be too. There is no preference, no better state, no achievement, just being, without needing to be. Fear cannot follow you here. It does not know this place. There's nothing for it to recognize. No form, no name, just quiet. Long pauses, soft darkness, stillness inside stillness. You do not need to come back. You do not need to remember. You do not need to wake. The body will wake when it needs to. Until then, rest continues. Without instruction, without sound, without effort. You are free to sleep deeply now. a soft presence, like distant wind. You do not need to hold attention. Attention can rest. In deep meditation, there is no object, no goal, no direction. Awareness rests in itself, without effort, without center. Fear cannot exist here, not because it was removed, but because there is nothing for it to attach to. No story, no image, no self, only a gentle knowing without content. You do not need to understand this. Understanding belongs to the mind, and the mind is resting. Thoughts may still appear, but they are faint, like echoes without a source. They do not ask for a response. They fade on their own. Breath is subtle now, sometimes noticed, sometimes not. Both are fine. There is no need to check the body. The body knows how to continue without supervision. Awareness becomes wide, then soft, then almost absent. Not gone, just unoccupied. This is not emptiness. It is fullness without form. Fear dissolves when there is no boundary, no inside, no outside, no one to protect, no future to prepare for, no past to revisit, only stillness. Stillness does not need to be maintained. It maintains itself. If sensations appear, they are distant. If they disappear, nothing is lost. You are not entering anything. You are not leaving anything. You are resting in what has always been here. The idea of you is no longer necessary. The sense of here is fading. The sense of now is enough. And even that is becoming quiet. This is where language loses its usefulness. Words are thinning. Meaning dissolves. You do not need the next sentence or the one after that. You can drift without guidance. Deep sleep and deep meditation touch the same place. A place without effort, without intention, without fear. Nothing happens here, and that is why it is so restful. If sleep deepens, let it. If awareness remains faintly present, let that be too. There is no preference, no better state, no achievement, just being, without needing to be. Fear cannot follow you here. It does not know this place. There's nothing for it to recognize. No form, no name, just quiet. Long pauses, soft darkness, stillness inside stillness. You do not need to come back. You do not need to remember. You do not need to wake. The body will wake when it needs to. Until then, rest continues. Without instruction, without sound.